Right, so I've come out here on this lovely sunny afternoon to talk about this particularly common plant called garlic mustard. So, as the name suggests, it does have a lovely garlicky smell if you crush a leaf, and it is actually edible, so you can eat it in your salad. So it's a fairly common plant. You would find it probably in most sort of hedge banks, in the garden. It tends to be where it's fairly shady actually, and it's a member of the cabbage family or the crucifer family, and a characteristic of that family is that it has 4 petals arranged in a cross shape, hence the name crucifer. So the reason I particularly love this plant is because it's the food plant of the orange-tip butterfly. And when I say the food plant, I mean that the caterpillars of the orange-tip butterfly feed on this plant. Now it's really exciting because I came out here a couple of weeks ago and I did notice some of the eggs had been laid. So the orange-tip butterfly is the early spring butterfly that you'll see flying around that's white with the orange tips. The male has the orange tips on the wings. And the underside of the wings have a sort of green pattern on them. So the orange tip the females will find these plants, garlic mustard plants. Also they do use cuckoo flower, and they'll lay their eggs singly underneath the flower heads here, and I can see one here right now, an orange egg just here. So they lay them singly because, believe it or not, they are actually cannibals, and when they hatch they will eat each other. So when they first lay an egg it's a creamy colour, and then as it ripens up over the next week or so it turns quite orange, and then out of that egg will hatch a very, very tiny caterpillar. And we also have, on one of the other garlic mustard plants over there, we do have 1 or 2 that have just hatched out. And when they first hatch, they are quite an orangey colour. They're really tiny, and they'll feed on these developing seed pods at the top of the plant. They'll be so camouflaged and so tiny, and they're going to molt several times, and as they do that they'll grow and they will change colour, so they'll become quite green as they get bigger. But at this really early stage they're a sort of orangey colour and so tiny. So they will feed on these growing seed pods here, where they'll be very camouflaged, and you can often find them just lying along those seed pods if you look really closely. So they'll molt, as I said, several times, and probably the caterpillar will survive for 3 or 4 weeks, and then after that it will hunt around for somewhere to pupate, and then it pupates for months and months and months, for the entire winter, until the spring, when it will then hatch as one of our first butterflies that you tend to see out in the spring. So that's really the reason I like garlic mustard. It's a very common plant, as I say. You can probably find it in your garden if you look if you've got quite an overgrown hedge like this one here, perhaps you might find it. And it's just I find it quite exciting if you can find some of those eggs and actually watch them develop over a number of weeks. So there we go.